I got a call from Katz asking me like really rudimentary questions like, how do you make blood? Like, how do you make blood? Why are you asking? You're a producer. Shouldn't there be the guy that's doing the blah, blah, blah?
We initially didn't bring our special effects people. We were going to have them done up there. And the guys who were working on our special effects and our makeup effects, their hearts were in the right place, but they simply didn't have the experience to pull it off. And so that was problematic. But again, you know, the decisions that we were making for inorganic reasons that continued to just nibble away at our ass. I'm surprised we had any ass left when the movie was done.
Todd Masters, he's got a great last name because he's a master at what he does. He saved the movie. He saved the prosthetics, and he saved the effects.
As production kind of rolled in, it just didn't sound like it was going so well. There was a number of phone calls that came down, and I finally just said, look, it's hard to tell you what's up, what's not, you know, when I'm not there. Let me come up and look at the stuff and, you know, see what the stress is all about. And so they flew me up for a few days, and I met with Chris Nelson, who was supervising it at the time. And he had done some neat stuff, but it didn't have the biggest of crews. Vancouver at that time really had only X-Files experience, so the Monster Maker teams there were still kind of, you know, a little behind what LA was doing. And so I think production was kind of expecting the speed and the type of work that, you know, we were previously doing, and it just wasn't kind of happening to their expectations. And so I went up there and tried to help out a little bit.
The prosthetic team was so much fun to work with because they you know, the whole process of having to put me through that, I wish they had filmed.
You know, the big witchy poo thing that Angie wears. I saw initial sketches of that. I'm like, you know, I get it, but it's not iconic. It's not, and you know, every show should have its signature monster, right? It shouldn't look like, you know, like E.T. is E.T. You know, whether you like that monster or not, that's not in any other movie. Bordello Bloodhead Witchy Poo. You know, that was a regretful thing. I wish that we had a hand in Lilith, because we had to kind of redo her, basically, when it came back down to LA, and it was like I was begrudgingly sculpting it like, you know, what are you gonna do? We did a whole bunch of like Bordello ballroom blast deaths, and we did some of the fake head stuff. You know, like there's like all sorts of little filler projects. You know, this didn't quite work out, so we need another shot of this, and so we can't really say that we had a whole bunch of, you know, responsibility to the effects.
Tammy!
The nurse explosion basically is we get our actress kind of into a position, and we replace her with a rigid body that we've got all loaded full of gunpowder and, you know, parts and blood and whatever you want her to blow up into. I think in this case, she was pretty bloody. And then in the computer, John Van Vliet, who was the, you know, supervisor on that, would scissor those together beautifully. If you go frame by frame on this, it's quite beautiful, actually. He did a great job. And one thing I always wish we did, because there's some balloons in it, and the balloons just kind of rattle there. I always wish some of them popped.
There was a really interesting twist, though, I will say, to Catherine Verdot in this story that did not make it to the screen. And I'm bummed. Normally, you know, as an actor, you go in, you shoot, you do your thing, and whatever ends up there, it's out of your control. But this was something that I really was hoping would have stayed. Catherine Verdot had a past, a very shady past. She was actually an ex-porn star named Chubby O'Toole. And she weighed about 300 pounds. And we went into makeup to shoot this. I feel like 6 hours. I think we finished it around 1 a.m. And yeah, it was such an incredible experience to have like this huge, it was just amazing. It was amazing. And so what happens in the movie is there's a scene between Catherine's character and Dennis Miller's character. Catherine goes into the theater. I believe she's looking for Dennis's character. And while she's waiting for him, she sees these old movie posters and starts looking through the movie posters. And Chubby O'Toole is on one of the posters. Anyway, really cool. That was like such a neat little thing for a little backstory, but it never really made it. So the Catherine that we saw was just a very kind of do-right girl.
About 2/3